Hey, everybody, and happy Wednesday to you. Happy April to you.
All
Welcome to
right.
Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, Gunpla, and gaming. I am Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, your host, and joining me as always, the Blue Gamer, the Nintendo explainer, Adam Blue. How are you, sir?
Pretty funny, yeah, because the Switch reveal, Switch 2 news, I was talking about that this morning.
Yeah, I
Crazy
caught parts
takeaway
of that.
yeah, crazy takeaways, the one game they announced, Mario Kart, that they were like announced its price, $80,
Yeah.
which is
See,
it's kinda crazy that we're getting to that point, but well, it's not like, there were some N64 games that cost that, but it's almost like we're now getting to the point where we're kinda seeing this stuff
Yeah, and
happen more
and
and
I
more.
think one thing to keep in perspective, because people always bring that up as kind of a I forget what the word is when you bring up, like, a bad faith example to try and prove your
Oh,
point,
yeah.
where people are like, "Oh, well, video games were always 60, $70 throughout the '90s," and the difference is that a 60, $70 game in the '90s was a complete game that didn't have to have patches, didn't have, like, DLC that you had to add on to it. A $80 game now is it's gonna be the basic game. It's like getting a stock car without any of the power windows, without the steering, without
Yeah. And all the
automatic
features you
locks.
need, and they're
So
gone, like, power seats, "Oh, it's not stock power seats? Oh, you have to get the higher up upgrade?" It's like,
yeah. Oh, you want the sport package. That's a
yeah.
so I do think that there's definitely something to that. And honestly, I didn't wanna get into it this early, but, like, honestly, that goes into a little bit of what my Trashamar would be
Oh,
for tonight. So,
okay.
um
Alright, we'll save it for
but
then.
before we get into that, obviously, it is the first show of April, which means we've got some announcements, we've got some, Patreon creator spotlights to share.
Heck yeah.
Before we hop into the show in proper, I do wanna give a shout out to, Principality New York. If you guys caught it over on Instagram, the Gelgoog guy won the March giveaway. We've already got another giveaway for April. So if you want to get your hands on a Semi Striker and a Freed Schneid, which I have to say, I like this Ifrit Schneid better than, like, the one that Doug Schneid actually uses, like,
Because this is a unicorn?
this is the unicorn
Yeah.
version. Honestly, like, I might enter this one because I could go for an Ifrit Schneid.
They knew
Um,
what they were doing in unicorn.
yeah, they sure
They
did, man. So yeah, you guys, if you're not already, then go hit the, link down in the description, go follow
you know,
Principality New York, and, enter to win these 2 sick high grade kits, and they're both from Unicorn, right? Like, that's the duel.
that is cool, yeah, exactly, so I was just realizing that too at the same time, that's like a perfect get right there.
Yeah, you can recreate that
Mhm.
iconic dagger stab scene. Sammy, you are all up in my business tonight, buddy.
Cat explained.
Exactly right, man.
Every time I see something like, because April Fools, I was like, "Oh, what if I should change, my, channel to something else explained?" And then so for a day, I was looking at something, what's the most ridiculous explained thing? But now Sim just likes to chill. You know
Yeah,
how it
yeah, he's a good dude. And the thing is I always feed him, like, right around 8 o'clock at night, and I did, so don't and nobody call me out. I did feed my cat right before I hopped on, that's why I was late getting on here. But, but yeah,
what
he's just saying thanks, he's expressing his gratitude.
okay, that's funny you say that because I was either reading or watching something, I forget, you know how it is nowadays with all this stuff, but
Of course.
something about eating with your cat.
Really?
Have you heard about that? Like, they were saying how if you serve your cat food and then you sit with them and eat, that they respond to that.
Interesting. I
So
mean,
it
I believe
could
it.
be
Cats are very, like,
yeah.
social.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wonder if that was, yeah, part of yeah, it seems, ritual of, "Oh, I just got fed, let's,
Yeah.
yeah."
Um, but no,
No, cats are
he's a
cool.
sweet guy, sweet
Yeah.
guy. And of course, because yesterday was the first, obviously every month I release a 3D model for you guys. Uh, this month, available for download over on Patreon, is a it's a 1/1200th scale Elmeth. You can actually scale it up to 1/144th if you scale it up by 900%, so times 9. Comes with bits and all of that good stuff. It comes in several parts so that you can assemble it. I'm pretty proud of this one. Or you know what? If you don't want the Elmeth, at least you've got extra bits to print out for your
That's right.
red Gundam from
That's
Gquuuuuux.
mixing the other ones.
So
This
there you go.
awesome. This is awesome. Have you tried scaling printing a scaled up version, or are you even gonna attempt is that, like, a lot of work?
Uh, I personally probably could not get it onto my printer. As it turns out, the Elmeth is really freaking big. Um, so at 1/144th scale, the Elmeth is actually about 2 feet long, from tip to tail.
Wow.
So even like, yeah, I'm trying to think of like, do I have anything that's 2 feet long around on my desk to show? I don't think I do. But I mean, like, okay, so let's see, 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper,
Oh, okay.
there you go. It's like the size of my torso.
That's crazy. And I wonder if it's because it only shows up at the end of the series. How often are people rewatching and they stop? Also, because there's not really easily accessible stuff, merch of this, it's really hard.
Exactly,
I talk about when I build a Gunpla, I really didn't get it ingrained in my mind, like the shape. I think it's like that with the
exactly.
helmet. It's really hard to contextualize its size.
And the original series is infamous for having poor scaling and poor,
Yeah. Perspectives
perspective. That's
of
the word I was
yeah,
looking for, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're looking at the Gelgoog and the Elmeth together, they're always kind of like, well, I mean, it's about 2 times the size of, but then here's where it makes sense, is all of those bits, I think there's 18 total bits, they all have to fit inside the Elmeth, and there's 2 hatches on the backside. I should have just had the 3D
Oh,
model open so I could show you guys. There's 2 hatches on the backside where all of the bits go in. Um,
interesting. So that's not something I thought about, and it might have even showed it in the animation, so they're not, like, attached like you normally see bits be, they're actually, like, inside. Oh,
exactly, and
which
then they
is a
all kind of
cool
float out when it's time to do their thing.
that's
Take them out, take
it's
them
kind of
down.
like a cool early example, I guess, of, like, what when they're trying to figure out how to operationalize bits, you know?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
so I kinda like how that,
which
oh,
kinda makes me want to do the Brow Bro for next month because that trying to
oh,
get that
that's
in
better.
scale will be an interesting challenge.
Um, eh yeah, so would you say the Big Zam is maybe a little smaller, I guess, in terms of the fit thing, but then the legs
Well, Alan
is
Mitchell here says if you put legs on it, that it is bigger than the Big Zam.
okay, wow. So
Yeah,
that okay. So the Big Zam looks as big as it does, a lot of it has to do with the legs, but I guess the element's total kinda mass in its kinda centers. And then then the, brow bow,
yeah.
and how big are we thinking that is?
I
Maybe
think that
bigger?
the main hull is about half the size of the Elmeth, but then, it's got
Yeah, right,
that
okay.
cross shape,
That's
so
cool.
yeah.
See, these are the cool deep cuts that I think are worth exploring.
Yeah, fun stuff, man. Like these are the types of things that obviously because Bandai is never going to give us like a 1/144th scale Elmeth
Ah,
or
yeah.
or shoot even Kshatriya. They're not going to do the 1/100th scale one. Or I'm hoping that because we've got the Psycho Gundam Mark II, that we are going to get a 1/144th scale Queen Mantha, Queen Mansa, however you pronounce it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
because that's by far my favorite mobile armor.
And just seeing the stuff they're kind of randomly releasing, like the Play clone,
Yeah.
and or Poodoo clone, and then yeah, the Mark II. It makes me think some of those. Yeah, that would
Now,
be great.
what's your favorite mobile armor?
You know what?
And is there a high grade kit of it?
Yeah, I think so. When it comes to mobile armors, I'm not into the early ones as much. I like them just because they're not utilized as much when we talk Gundam, when we do Gundam stuff. So when I see the Elmeth and all those, I'm like, those are awesome. But I like it's either the Dendrobium
That's a good one.
or the one in was it the Twilight Axis short? Don't they both have one? Or am I thinking of another CGI short?
Is
Um,
that, Igloo with, like, the big rang?
No, I'm gonna have to look this up again because I remember it was one of these CGI shorts that I was like, "Oh, there's a mobile armor no one ever talks about." I'll have
Right?
to go back and make a video, I guess
There you
is
go. See, this is the perfect I love this show because it always inspires a video for you.
yeah, dude, it does.
Speaking of inspiring a video, guys, I am 3 subscribers away from 5,000. Thank you guys so much. I really
Oh,
appreciate each and every one of you because, you guys are the reason that I do this. And so in the spirit of that, I haven't even put a lot of thought into what I would give away. So let me know. Tell you what we'll do is since we're almost there, if you guys leave a comment, don't do it in chat because obviously I might lose the chat. But so if you comment on this stream and tell me what your favorite mobile armor is and why, then you will be automatically entered to win whatever giveaway we do, whether it's, something from my backlog, whether it's a gift card to like Art Robo Gundam, whatever I put together for you. I don't know what it's going to be, but you know me, I promise it'll be good. Okay.
yeah, and this is a monumental occasion, uh, anyway.
Yeah. It's Dendrobium orchis sized.
Yeah.
There you
No,
go.
I'm gonna actually, yeah, tweet that, man. You said you're 3 away?
Actually, according to WD-30th, it's 1 sub away, so look at that.
Whoa.
We might even cross the barrier here tonight, so
Alright,
but
let
again,
me
thank you guys so much. This is, I'm seriously humbled because when I started making videos on YouTube, like, I didn't think anyone really cared what what some guy in his basement had to say.
yeah, it's weird that yeah, it's like that, man, yeah, this is cool. Sorry, I'm distracted 'cause I'm gonna tweet it out.
Look at that, live tweeting during the show. That's
Well,
awesome.
another thing just happened, so we don't have to get into this, but that news about the Gundam movie, and so I
Right.
reached out to that guy
I
because
saw that. You reached out to him
well,
on
no,
Twitter?
privately,
Oh, privately,
because
gotcha.
I wanna come up with a thing of, you get me a scoop, I'll post and I'll put your name out there for everybody. See if I
Heck
can
yeah,
work
man.
on the little scoops.
I mean,
Um,
honestly, you broke the news before anyone else, with that short because it was crazy. The next day, that's when all the you know clickbait articles came out. Obviously using the most suggestive images of Sydney Sweeney possible.
yeah.
Which, if I wasn't excited about the Gundam movie before, I'm definitely excited about it now.
Which is funny because I consider myself a super, super hetero male, but I feel like I have to have composure and not speak, objectively or no,
Some
objectifyingly.
Sure,
What?
yeah.
Yeah,
He
but
treats objects like women, dude.
that's but, I think she's cute, but I don't see that popular element.
No,
I
and you
think
know
she
what?
had the right
Honestly,
look for, like, Sayla, if that's the case.
no, yeah, for sure. And honestly, like I never watched Euphoria. I hadn't seen anything that she had been in. I definitely didn't go and watch Black Widow, but of course, my
I
wife
haven't
and
read
I
it.
watch rom-coms and stuff like that. So, we did watch that movie, Anyone But You.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she was hilarious in that, and, like, honestly,
She's
she
cool.
seems like the kind of person that's, like, got a good sense of humor about things, which I appreciate in Hollywood types, which is so sad because, like, that guy Glenn Powell, he seems like such a nice guy, but man, if there was an Emmy for the most punchable face, like
Oh.
but he's so sweet. I mean, the guy brings his mom to red carpet events instead of,
Oh,
like,
I
dates and
saw
stuff
him
like
in
that.
Twisters.
Yeah,
Oh,
I saw Twisters too, yeah, that was
in Top Gun? I think he was in Top Gun.
yeah, he was, like, the bad guy in Top Gun.
Uh, oh,
Or he was
that's
the Lancer, the
that's where
Deuterogamist.
that comes from. That almost like, yeah, a bad guy type. I think that was the first time I'd seen him.
Exactly.
Wait, how did we get here?
Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, there we yeah, sorry,
It's
I sidetracked the whole
boom, it's,
thing.
6
Oh,
degrees of Sydney Sweeney, I
but
guess is
but
the
actually, really, this all came from, "Let's get you to 5K during the stream."
exactly right. And speaking of, the Sydney Sweeney to Glenn Powell, RIP to Val Kilmer today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that, and honestly, like, Val Kilmer's one of those actors that I really looked up to as a kid because he played Batman.
Yeah, that
He
was
he was my favorite Batman, probably because I was young and impressionable when
okay.
Batman Forever came out, and then, of course, like, I loved movies like Top Secret, like, always cracked me up,
Yeah.
so,
You know what? For me, it was mainly from Batman, and kinda like
yeah.
you, like, while I was little, Michael Keaton was my favorite, but
Mhm.
at that time, I didn't care there was a new Batman, and he's to me, did a good job, and that was actually even though people look back on it not as well, it's not as bad as Batman and Robin, you know?
Yeah, that's saying something, but yeah, so, he will be missed for sure, I'm glad that he was able to appear in that Top Gun sequel even just as a
Yeah. Eh, like, yeah, however they did that for him, yeah, yeah, and then he had a documentary, I hadn't watched it, though, I think it's on Amazon.
Dude, I thought it was on Hulu, maybe it's on Amazon,
Oh,
but yeah,
Hulu.
that Val Kilmer documentary, please, guys, after the stream, go watch it, it's
Oh,
fantastic, it's narrated by his son, who, like, actually sounds exactly like him, and so it's his son is narrating it as him. It's
wow.
really, really good, so, very cool stuff.
Okay, I just refreshed still, it's right at
Still
4.99.
hovering right at the line.
Yeah,
Well, that's okay because we have a lot to talk about
yeah.
tonight. What would you guys prefer? Would you rather go straight into Trashomar, or do you wanna stick with something positive and take a look at some of these Patreon creator spotlights this evening?
Both sound cool to me, but yeah, let's see what,
See what the chat says.
'cause I'm down for trashing and for, what rhymes. Okay, we're getting creators.
There we go. So, yeah, let's do that first. We can always end on something negative.
Yeah.
So naturally, because it's me, I wasn't able to do anything for I had a couple of ideas that I had started and didn't quite finish for the month of March. The theme for the month of March was the word simulacrum, which I know was funny because obviously everyone was like, "What does that even mean?" And so like everyone had to kind of take to Wikipedia and figure out what it meant. I thought it sounded cool, and basically it means like a facsimile, a recreation, a copy
Okay.
of something. It's just a really fancy word to say it, right?
Oh, okay.
And so technically, I did make a simulacrum, maybe not last month, but
Can I
my
guess?
second daughter is scheduled to to
Oh!
be born this month, and she is a simulacrum of me,
I
right?
was
So
not gonna guess that.
technically speaking, I have a simulacrum in the oven. I don't know.
That's pretty good.
I I'll take technicals. A technical win is still a win in my book.
I was gonna guess, and I thought it was something Gunpla, and I was thinking, "Oh, the V8 part," you know? I was like
Dude, it's right here. Like, I still I can't make a single good copy of this V8 part, but I got some new silicone. We are going to make some parts. Actually, if you guys are interested, maybe Friday, I will stream some mold making.
Oh,
Because there's
yeah.
a lot of molds that we have to make. I've got LED parts that I need to copy. I've got, Zeta Plus parts that we're gonna be copying, so I actually have a lot of molds to pour. It'll be kinda fun to do all that together.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's a good idea.
but where I failed, my Patreon supporters, God bless you all because you guys came in the clutch and created some amazing stuff that I wanna share with you guys. So first, let's pop open the screen share here. Let me ask you something, Adam, does this look familiar at all to you?
Yeah. Isn't that just a shot from Gundam?
It sure is. It's in fact a shot from my favorite Gundam, it's Zeta Gundam. I believe this is in the lunar city of Von Braun. If not, then it would be Granada. But it is
Oh.
McDaniel's restaurant.
Yeah.
Which I always maybe this is Mandela effect, I didn't realize there was an A in there, and, Artie Andy, I see you in chat, she caught me and said, "You do realize it's Mac Daniels, not McDaniels."
Wow, that's a good one. When it comes to that, Mandela effect thingy, because MAC and MC, I can kinda see well, there's a lot of Cs, um, mixing that up.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
Now and then again, Artie Andy submitted this, which is a facsimile recreation of McDaniel's restaurant, which I have to say, like, even just that side by side shot, did you see, like,
Yes.
almost seamless that
Yeah.
transition?
That is awesome.
Isn't this fantastic?
I
Like,
wonder what scale that is. D did already happen to say?
that's a good
Find
question. Yeah,
out.
Artie, if you know the exact scale, let us know in chat.
And, like, is that
Um,
a VHS box? That, that blue thing? Because you see on the side the little I mean,
ye
not really, but I love this. Just because it
oh,
reminds me when I would try to be making stuff when I was younger,
oh,
and
yeah.
really you can't like, even today, you can grab anything and just focus and,
And so, yeah, here you go. This is a shot of the interior. Obviously, you've got
Oh,
Shar there in the black trench coat, and you've got Henkin pretending to be a diligent employee. This is what I really love is that obviously Artie could have just stuck with the exterior and it would have been fine because you saw the fantastic detail, hand painted awning and everything. But she even went so far as to recreate the bar area with the purple swivel chairs. The only thing that's missing is Henkin at the grill.
I know, why not create a little person? No, but even
So yeah.
the way McDaniel looks, like, I guess what did she like, do they use Photoshop and then find a font that looks just right? And then, like, there's so many little things to do,
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, this is hand painted here on the windows, so fantastic job.
yeah, that's inspiring, actually. Make it
Thank
like a
you for
little
sharing this. Like, this takes me back because, it was a couple years ago that I did that build competition where I created, like, a bar front and had, like, the neon open sign and stuff. I'll have to dig those
that
photos up again and repost them. I
yeah, I'd love to see that. I don't know if I've seen that before.
Oh, I'm sure that, they've been around. But yes, also we had a submission from Ultronomus, and I did put a link to the full text because it's an 8-page short excerpt from a story in which, you know, humanity has populated the stars and has created a they have created life, which is funny because you and I just before the show started, we're talking about like AI replacing our jobs, and it's
Yeah,
like, here we are talking about simulacrums, and so Ultronomus wrote a short piece which I thought was fantastic. A bunch of these, they're not first generation, but they're like second generation AI life forms that are trying to live up to the original. Uh,
like the
and
creators
Well, living up to
versions
the
of
original,
their
yeah,
original
artificial,
folks.
life form, so the original android, and what's interesting is the way that they go about choosing their names and choosing their roles and things like that, and so what I do wanna do is I will read, this is a short, excerpt from the last paragraph. Again, for context, you're gonna wanna read the entire piece, and I put a link down in the description to it if you guys wanna take a look and, check it out, but here we are. Maybe he was too focused on looking human. Maybe the uncanniness wasn't the worst thing. They didn't need a Nemo to prove that they had sentience. He already had his own thoughts and feelings, and so did the rest of the special series. They could choose and desire whatever they wanted. Some will want to do things the slow and peaceful way with him, and maybe some will want to fight with Genesis. But the simple fact that they could decide which side they wanted to stand on was proof that they weren't simple machines. He just hoped that the others felt that way too. And what I
True.
like about this, so there's obviously a lot of missing context going on in this story. Nemo, of course, being the original, Genesis being the unit that is named in the story. And when we talk about AI and when we talk about artificial life, we talk about things like free will, which always tends to come up, right? Like,
Yeah.
do machines have free will if they were created by man? And so the mere fact that they are considering whether or not they have free will, like automatically implies that they do. So there's a lot of like deep philosophical impact. And I don't even know if autonomous, you'll have to tell me if you meant for a lot of the uh thematic naming that goes on, because even like the name Nemo, if I'm not mistaken, because it refers to like what's the it's the Captain Nemo, the one that is the that has, like, the underwater ship. You know
Yeah,
what story I'm talking about?
yeah.
What is that story called?
Um, yeah, yeah, that I know what you're talking about, but I have no
But,
idea.
uh but yeah, just the idea of,
20,000
Captain
Leagues Under the Sea.
I swear I was, like, on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, so, like, just the name Nemo, is suggests something like a vanguard or a frontier, so there's almost like this rebirth that is going on in that life form, which is very cool. So, and yep, here we go. Ultrana says that the names are very intentional. So well done, sir.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's that's really cool.
yeah, it's a cool piece, and honestly, like even within those 8 like this works as a novella. Honestly, like you don't need like a 200-page novel um to get what you're looking for out of this. So,
Very cool.
but yeah, so thank you guys so much for the submissions last month. This month, I will obviously drop over on Patreon what the month's theme is going to be. I will probably fail to deliver on it as I always do, especially with the baby on the way. But of
Mhm.
course, we will showcase it the first week of May.
Very cool.
But with that, I guess we can move on to let's talk some negative stuff.
Yeah, why not?
Well, actually, no. So there was something that obviously in the thumbnail I mentioned that there was some Gquuuuuux news, and this is tangentially related to the Trashomar. So this will actually
Okay.
it'll all tie together quite nicely. It's a good segue. This past weekend was the Times Square takeover for Gundam. They had a little pop up there. Some of our fellows from Principality, New York, went there and took some photos, checked it out. They said it was pretty awesome. They had these huge screens where they were just showing like all of the promotions and ads for everything related to Gquuuuuux, which starts next week on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
If you guys are Prime subscribers, you can start watching Gquuuuuux starting next week, which is very exciting. Are are you still on the fence about Gquuuuuux, Adam?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm luckily going in with the expectation it's probably not gonna be exactly what I want, but I'm there for the Easter eggs.
For sure.
And so from what I'm gathering, they're gonna release it 1 episode at a time weekly, 10:30 AM Central
Very
on
cool.
Tuesday. So, if that's the case, I am going to try to do watch-alongs every week for it.
If it's
So
on Tuesdays, I'll have to miss it, but if it were any other day.
and it happens to be 30 minutes before my scheduled lunch, so I just moved my lunch back 30 minutes.
Perfect.
I know, I know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was very much surprised how much I enjoyed Gquuuuux's beginning. And personally, it's the UC stuff that like I didn't like as much. Like I
Oh,
what I do enjoy is I enjoy the story of everything going forward, and that's where I don't think that it needs to be UC in order for the story to work.
right.
I actually hope that there's not as many Easter eggs because to me, it's like the more it references UC, the more I'm going to try and make that comparison, and the more it's going to fall short because it's always going to fall short.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between and what was an example I was using recently? It's like how Star Wars will do its callbacks versus man, there was something that came out recently that's a big IP, and I need to find it so I could do this comparison. Huge IP that does the callbacks, but nothing was like,
Well, like Alien Romulus.
you know what? Actually, that is not bad because even though I thought the what what's the name of the droid?
Oh,
Um,
it's not
forgot the name.
Bishop.
But
It's
you know
the
how they had, like, that
yeah,
AI to have the droid back or whatever? Like, it looked weird but when it came to actually doing those little callbacks, yeah, they did it in a subtle way, and it was kinda intertwined, um, but,
yeah.
I 'cause maybe that and maybe this is me, I am not excited about stumbling upon just, like, another anime. Like, if it turns out like Witch from Mercury, which, again, I don't wanna be negative even though this is Trashomar, or about to be,
Yeah.
I it's like I enjoyed my time watching Witch from Mercury. I love the suits, but I would rather it been something else.
Yeah,
But I get what it's doing, so that I'm afraid that's what's gonna happen with this, but along the way, there's gonna be mobile suits. So,
right. Yeah, and the designs kill me, man, like, they're, ugh.
kill you good or bad?
Oh, they're terrible. I don't
Oh,
like
you
them.
don't like it?
No, no. I mean, the DOMs look alright, but that's because the DOMs are basically DOMs.
Yeah. And I would say overall, yeah, the design it's more of, uh, yeah, it's interesting. It almost reminds me of an origin take instead of, like, a whole new Gundam.
That's a good way of looking at it,
Yeah,
and honestly, I was like, one of the things that stood out to me is just how jarring, Shalia Bull's character design was alongside all the original characters, and it's because they had to update him
yeah.
to fit in with the current times. Like, he was the only well, spoilers, he's the only character that from,
Right.
uh with one exception, there's one other character who I won't spoil,
I think
that
there's a
does make
couple.
an appearance.
Oh,
What's
it
that?
makes an appearance. I think they mention
Yeah, yeah,
somewhat.
there's a cameo
Yeah.
of another, UC character that they did not change his design, which is interesting to me because obviously they drastically changed Shalia Bull. But, so leading into it, obviously, there was a, prominent Gundam Twitter user that I won't, dogpile them because obviously they've suffered enough at the hands of their own, incompetence, but they quite famously have never watched 0079. The excuse, of course, being like, "Well, I already know the gist of the story, and people talk about it all the time, and I've played the video games, so, like, I don't need to watch the original." But
Huh.
their opinion was, "Man, I really hope that Gquuuuuux doesn't reference anything else from UC because, like, I'm tired of it and I wanna see something different." And I'm like, "How can you be tired of like, they could make references that you would never get because you never saw the original, so what are you
Yeah,
complaining about?"
that is a little weird. Um, because a lot of them, kinda like what I was alluding to before, are a little subtle, like, the cool ones, like, some of the cool little things that are more about the world building are just kinda, like, there,
Yeah.
but not in your face, and you guys brought up stuff I remember on our Gquuuuuux that I didn't even know. I think some stuff from another anime that I never saw.
Yeah, there's Fooly Cooly references, I it blows my mind that nobody recognizes the Evangelion eyes that everyone has.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Xavier or Oliver, I think is his character's name, he's got EVA Unit 1 eyes, and, the main character, is it Machu? Am I
Yeah.
Machu has, like, EVA whatever. I never saw Evangelion, so I'm still see,
No,
even the non-Evangelion guy is
because it's
recognizing
interesting
the
that
Evangelion influence.
yeah, because he straight up puts that stuff, in his works, and
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I
But it
mean, and
doesn't
also
shine a light on it, which I appreciate. Like you said, it's very subtle, it's
yeah,
not like a, um,
in your face,
there
like, "You remember this?"
right. Yeah, member, it's not member berries, they actually are true Easter eggs, because it's not an Easter egg if you have to tell the audience that it's
Yeah.
there, right?
Yep.
Um, but, and this honestly, you will be so much happier in life if you just recognize that, most people online, will say things and have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, including here.
No,
It
yes, it's true. Like, even though we have a little bit of confidence, we're trying to provide some valuable entertainment. So obviously, if we're wrong about something, we apologize. But it's
well,
cool.
you'll apologize. I'll tell people that they are obviously incorrect.
No, it's been interesting lately. Where I've been getting comments, especially things related to Gquuuuuux, where people are just generally kind of positive.
Yeah,
It's been very interesting. And I wonder if it's because Gquuuuuux isn't necessarily doing anything offensive. And that's like my take. It's like there's nothing when I watched it, you know, I I wasn't necessarily like I can't believe this, And I think
right.
that might be for the general audience as well. When I hate it when I want to make a reference and then I can't think of what I'm trying to reference. I don't know. A show or movie came out recently from a big IP. Everyone was like all negative about it. Came out and it was fine. No blowback
Yeah,
because people make up stuff to get mad about. But when I think when something
people
generally
make stuff up online? You're what?
But I think when something genuinely works, even if some people don't care about it, usually there's not, like, this, like, yelling
I mean,
about
I think in the annals of history, it'll probably go down something like Gundam Age, where it's just like, yeah, it was a thing that happened. It was one of the Gundam series that ever came out. But I still enjoy the story. I enjoy the characters. Just don't like the mobile suit designs, and I don't like what it does with UC. But yeah, I mean, like it's so funny. Like I was watching a music video on YouTube the other day, and I saw in the comments that the pinned comment was somebody saying like, you know, I really appreciate how unlike other bands, this band isn't afraid to speak out on social issues and things like that. And I'm like, what heck, do you not listen to music ever? Like, there's a whole freaking documentary, biopic, whatever you wanna call it, starring Timothy Chalamet about Bob Dylan, who basically made his career singing about stuff like, "Oh, the times they are a-changing." Like, so it's and this goes back to, like, one of our rules of talking about things online is, like, if you can't praise or critique something without referencing another body of work as, like, as a framing point, then how much do you really love or hate that thing? Because you don't have anything genuine to say about it. It's like, oh, unlike there was that meme that went around because there was a YouTuber that was like, unlike other mecha anime, Robotech focuses on the characters. And it's like, you know, tell me you haven't watched mecha anime without
it.
saying you haven't watched mecha anime. It's like,
And it's funny because this sort of thing that happens reminds me of, like, if you're in public with a bunch of people and then someone makes a joke that is, like, it's not funny and almost like a waste of time to bring it up. Like, you're almost thinking like, "Okay, what am I doing here?" I guess that's kind of a weird thing to think, but it's sometimes when there's those waste of time, sometimes jokes that are made to almost like, um, almost that person's expressing their knowledge as the one and only that knows what's go you know what I mean? It's like a
yeah,
human thing I think we do sometimes, but it makes me wonder too, like, it's someone that's young that discovers music, and all they
right.
listen to was the radio. And then the like, it was me when all I knew from the '90s was the radio, and then I heard the Offspring music that wasn't on the radio, and I was like, "Whoa."
There's music like this?
Yeah, and so I'm telling people, "Hey, wow, is there any other bands that have fast drums?"
Boy,
Like,
do I have something for you. Yeah, it's so funny, like, just the childlike wonder with which some people can go through the world.
I know, and, you know what? So here's something else that's interesting. So someone, and this I forget where it was posted, had posted, like, about the original Gundam show. They're like, "Hey, at the end of every episode, it spoils the next one. Why are they doing this? Do they know what they're doing? It doesn't make sense." And I was like, "Oh, that's very interesting. This is probably something very young that didn't." There's multiple layers to this. One, it's
Yeah,
the fact that you're watching something at a certain time, and who knows if you're gonna catch the next episode. So the end gets people to, if they just happen to catch a show that, "Oh, this is a neat show and something's gonna happen next episode." You know, like, it's almost like the shows had to find ways to market themselves while
yeah.
you were watching it, you know?
Well, because it wasn't oh my gosh, I don't know what my cat just knocked over.
That's
Um,
the cat thing.
uh, you know, because people didn't have Netflix, they weren't just binging these shows, so
Yeah,
there were actually had to be something at the end of it, like a cliffhanger that would get you to come back next week to watch the next episode, which is just a foreign concept. I mean, it's like one you know what it reminds me of is like the Rolodex. The
oh, yeah.
Rolodex is a device that Zoomers will never understand because they've never had to memorize phone numbers. Like, you might memorize your own just because that but, like,
Yeah.
literally every other contact info you have stored in your phone. Um,
I
and so
remember. Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say my mom had it, she just called it the book.
Yep.
She's like, "Oh, can you get the book?" "Oh, let me get the book." And it had forever, like everyone's name, address, and it's interesting to think nowadays, that's kind of an example of things that make us, I don't wanna say really lazier, but it's almost, it takes away that sort of mental task that then you're not applying to anything else.
It's
So I
true.
think these things sort of degrade our habits. And I remember this was like 2004, 2005 when Google first was doing like syncing contacts online. And I was so obsessed. I was like, this is the future. And now I hate that I have all these contacts, which like 90% I don't even talk to. And I don't want to accidentally call. So,
Yeah. No, and it's I have you and I talk about this a lot. Like I have mixed feelings about AI, and especially ultimately my opinion on AI changes based on whose opinion I just read because both sides of the argument make me mad.
oh, have I got an argument for you? So,
So, people talk about like, oh man, AI is going to cost these people their jobs and stuff like that, but nobody was crying when digital film replaced regular
oh,
film.
exactly. So many, that's a separate task, separate
Dude,
job.
you're talking about an entire industry that disappeared, like, overnight, and then it's something that we totally take for granted because it used to be, "Hey, I've only got 3 shots left in this roll of film. I have to make sure that every photo counts." And now you have influencers that will take 40 selfies before they decide which one to post.
Yeah.
So, to your point about, like, the repetition of, like, mental tasks, it's like we have offloaded so many of our mental faculties to devices and technology that we rely on, that now we spend our time doing what I would consider even less interesting and, like, more monotonous tasks, right? Like, the
Wow.
idea that
Yeah.
now you have to go through 20 photos instead of just saying, like, "That's my one picture." Like
Dude, there is something there, because I remember as a teenager, you having the camera that you would then go
yeah.
get it yeah, developed or whatever,
And then you had to push the flash buttons, right? It's like,
yeah,
"Beep."
yeah, and, yeah, so that is a way so th that's another interesting thing about this AI argument, because something came to me the other day when I was thinking, what if someone was disabled and was born without functions of their arms, and they loved looking at art, and now they can make people that couldn't use their hands and now they can. And then a lot of times I think the argument then boils down to capitalism.
Mm,
Really, the only thing people are mad at is that you might be ripping someone off. It's not the joy of creating the art. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's really got me to now side with the AI. Yes, I will be safe when they take up. No, but just those 2 points. The
See, like I said, man, I knew it. I knew you were gonna tick me off. The so funny story, there's actually an artist that I follow on Instagram, yeah, his name is Harry, it
balls.
begins with a D. There you
Okay,
go.
I don't know. That
Um
was a bad
No,
joke.
Henry Fraser.
Okay.
His name's Henry Fraser. He was 17. He's from the UK, and he was in a horrible rugby accident and, like, basically dislocated his neck and is paraplegic now.
Wow.
And so because he doesn't have the use of his hands and legs, he has taught himself to mouth paint, and he is
Oh.
phenomenal, like photorealistic paintings.
Wow.
So, and he's started this whole movement and this whole company, like the little big things, which are obviously because every day he has to find the little victories in life that because like you said, being disabled, he can't do a lot of the things that we take for granted. And so every day he has to find like the little big things that keep him going. And so that's a
Wow.
perfect example of like, like you said, there's the easy way out, which is the AI, and then there's the committing to teaching yourself a skill. And like I don't think that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer there, but I don't even know why I brought it up. What am I talking
No,
about?
no, I think that's a good point. It's like even without the use of arms, someone's able to make incredible art, and, like,
Mhm.
yeah, this guy's art is great. Um, and to think he might have not known, I mean, I don't know, did he paint before? Do you know that?
No, I mean, he drew, like,
Okay.
he was a teenager, he used to sketch in his notebook and stuff, but yeah, I mean, he spent most of his early life, having full use of his appendages and then, like, lost them, so
See, that is interesting how you can relearn something. Different way. I think I was telling you about playing guitar where I picked one way that I picked up on my own. That's weird.
yeah.
But then a guy was like, no, 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 you gotta do it this way. And then I relearned it. Yeah, you guys should check out the art. Henry. Oh, okay. I thought you said Harry, so
I
that's
I
why.
s I did say Harry at
Oh,
first,
okay.
but yeah, Henry Fraser, so
Yeah,
yeah, you
there's Joe.
brilliant artist.
No,
But
yeah.
I don't think, and this is where it's like, do you think that AI art invalidates anything that he does?
No, I think these are 2 completely different things. Because, like, I think what he's doing is this is like a mastered skill. Like, he
Mhm.
is at this point, he is an artist, a master. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but that's his talent, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's people that that's not their thing, but they wanna create. Because I think a lot of times, as humans, we wanna create, and we don't know where to express that, and we might do
Mhm.
it somewhere that then we are demotivated. Like, maybe if I went to go make something out of clay and I'm like, "What am I doing? This is horrible," and then you don't wanna do anything again, you know?
Man, it's crazy. I was just, talking to my coworker who, he was a big Gundam fan, and then when he started working with my company, he and I started talking about Gundam, and he was like, "Oh, man, you got me back into Gunpla." Like, I put it down for, like, the past 2 years, and, like, now I'm getting dragged back in, and he gets down on himself sometimes because obviously, like so many of us, he goes into every project and he wants it to be good. Like, right when you start out, you have to be good, and it's like, that's just not the way that human beings work. Is like, we have to be messy, we have to create some crap before we can get good at something. And
Yeah.
I think that, the big the big lie about AI is that there are a lot of people that, like you said, they wanna create something and they want to express themselves, and it's almost like it's almost like a simulacrum. It's almost like a hyper reality where you trick yourself into thinking that you've created something good, but then if you go to recreate it, obviously you only had so much influence on it because you created the prompt
Right.
maybe. So, like, so
That's
it's
kind of
almost
like
like
a
practicing the wrong way to play guitar.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think and no, I think that's a good point. I think, with A and that is, I think, the main thing about AI that makes it where people aren't crazy about it, because if you go to just
Mhm.
use it and make something, that's not gonna be it. Like,
Yeah.
like, it would have to be, so let's say someone, wants to do some artwork and they don't have any hands, they would probably use the voice prompts and
Yep.
then have to go, no, let's refine it with this, refine it with that. Like, that is the work. And I
Yeah.
think people don't realize that. They think, oh, generate something real quick. It's like, well, that's not really how it works. And what's really the end result? Because I can generate maybe for us to get a concept,
Yep.
but then what are we gonna use to finalize it, Well,
Yeah,
I guess
and
in work environments, professionally.
right, right. And honestly, like, there's what's interesting is the demand for human created art has gone up, I think, in response to AI proliferation as
Yeah,
opposed to the other way around. Because and I always tell people this, if you are losing a customer because they found a cheaper option or they decided to use AI instead of hiring you, they were never your customer to begin with. It's kind of like the piracy debate where it's like, if you're mad that someone is pirating your movie, your video game, what have you, they were never going to buy your product in the first place because to them it wasn't worth buying.
yeah,
So you're not really losing anything to them. You might I mean, there are going to be companies that will hire, an AI prompt writer instead of a real artist, but ultimately we all know what is AI and what is not, and so it becomes very obvious. Like, yeah, they just kind of prompted that out versus somebody that was hired to do it. But um, where was I going with this thought?
well, no, I think, yeah, we're just kind of,
Yeah.
explaining on that because I do see that even someone that would it's almost like it's more gonna merge. Like,
Yeah.
let's say you got someone in graphic design and someone that's a prompt writer, over time, it's more of that's gonna kinda merge rather than like, "Oh, this guy's gonna take over that guy." Because I think the artist still has to understand a degree of the or the prompt writer has to understand a degree of the art. The artist has to understand a degree of how to interface with the tool. Like,
Yeah,
think of
well
someone,
said.
an old school drawer, that's 50, and then you're like, "Oh, here's something called a PC, and here's Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator." they're not gonna even if they can draw the most amazing drawing.
Even the people that started using Photoshop that didn't have a background in photography, they were like, "What the hell's a burn tool? Like, what
Yes.
why am I dodging and burning? I don't know what that
Yes.
means." And it's like, "Oh, the tools are named after actual photograph,
Uh, stuff or, terms,
terminology."
yeah, for,
And
editing
then,
purposes.
most people are not using AI for production level stuff anyway. Most of it's just shit posts.
Yeah,
Like
or
like,
it's
nobody
more
is making the next Ghibli movie in
right.
AI. They're making Ghibli memes, which,
Right
you
now, I
know
think all the end result graphical stuff is more for just the fun or the uniqueness of it for now, whereas I think a lot of the practical application is for brainstorming, conceptualizing, um, kinda shortcutting for, like, research
Yeah,
gathering, stuff like that. Yeah. Um
exactly.
oh,
So oh, go ahead.
real quick, I don't know the full details of this, but wasn't there, and because you brought this up on our G-Watch about AI subtitles used on, Gquuuuuux or
Yes.
something?
Yeah, so I did oh, man, I don't remember where I read it, but yes, they are going to be pioneering, AI generated subtitles for or is it subtitles or dubs? I
Oh,
think
okay.
they
It might
used
be
AI translation one way or the other for either the subtitles or for the dubbed tracks, but yeah, Gquuuuux is going to be utilizing, yeah, and the only reason I said it is I was like, I bet they're gonna do it just because of how quickly they're coming out with all of the US versions and the fact that it's gonna be dubbed on, Amazon
okay.
Prime. Like, there's no way that they had translators working that fast.
Okay,
Uh,
so because something came up recently about, I don't know if it was Gundam, and then there was this issue that came up with, um, I don't know, maybe in chat someone might know what I'm talking about, I'll have to look at it, but I think something that had to do with either subtitles or dubbing with Gquuuuux did something wrong, and,
yeah.
people were calling it out, but I just skipped over that, I didn't make it a big deal, but anyway, it might not be.
Well, and it's funny because, you're kinda damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if the AI makes a mistake, then the AI makes a mistake, but if a localizer makes an intentional change to the script, now all of a sudden you have another group of people that's angry because the script was changed for one reason or the other. So it's like, you really there's no perfect way to do it. I think that the benefit of using AI and I've used, like, some machine translation and some, like, AI translation tools, and man, you have to gaslight the AI so freaking hard to get it to, like, actually tell you what you want because I'll use, like, Google Translate to, like, look at a document, and I'll pick out a few words, and then I'll upload the document to ChatGPT or Grok or what have you, and say, like, "Hey, translate this page for me," and it just makes stuff up, and I'm like, "Well, I know that that's not right because I literally just took a picture and used Google Translate, so, like, try again."
Yeah, it's funny
Um,
how that does happen sometimes. You know, but it's funny. So there's someone in the Gundam Explained Discord had posted this history of anime or something like that in the
oh,
U.S.
very cool.
Yeah, part one, and it's by this new anime distributor called Animigo or Anime IGO. Um,
Anime
and
Amigo, it's cool.
Anyway, they Bubblegum Crisis
Oh,
Blu-ray
yeah.
just came out, so I grabbed it, and what's awesome is the inside has this booklet that's like these translated interviews, and that's, like, awesome, but
Love that.
what was interesting was part 2 of the inter or this making of came out yesterday. No, the
Mm,
day before yesterday, when they announced Sydney Sweeney,
yeah,
and while I'm watching this interview, the guy mentions that he works for Legendary. That they're interviewing. He works for their comics division, but he was talking about
interesting.
how because he back when he was trying to distribute Gundam, and now he's working, for the company that so that was like another. It was just to me, it was curious. I happened to watch that day. The guy confirms a Gundam movie, and then the Sydney Sweeney announcement. I feel like it's synchronicity.
Yeah, there's definitely something in the air, something's brewing,
Yeah.
and it's I always go back and forth about whether or not it's good for Gundam fans to work on Gundam properties, like, obviously, Anno being a huge Gundam fanboy,
Mhm.
and then, having worked on Char's Counterattack and doing some of the designs there, now his company's producing Gquuuuux, so it's like, there's this, there's like a new generation of Gundam media that's coming out that is being produced by Gundam fans, and I think that there's a some of it's great, some of it's not so great. I don't know that I would necessarily. I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that fans should have creative control over the properties that they're fans of?
If their profession is a storyteller.
Mm.
Like,
Okay, well said.
if they're making a living by telling stories, even if they have a YouTube channel that's all about that IP, then I would trust them, because if they are a professional storyteller and they love it, then it works. But if it's just because they're a fan, I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Yeah, I worry about that because, so many and this is where I'm going with this is kind of like, I'm gonna keep harping on it. It's just the fact that like I don't think that the story of Gquuuuuux necessitates having UC ties to it. I think that that's the fan trying to like hold on to something. You know what I'm saying? Like that there's a I want to write my UC fanfic, but I also know that I'm not allowed to do that. So I'm gonna like try and make it a weird alt UC, like it's
Uh,
tangential, like I get to have my cake and eat it too, kind of thing. So
yeah, I you know what? And that is interesting stuff, just to consider Star Wars, the stories we were getting, and it's like, well, what if you do these alternate stories? And they had a few like little anime shorts,
yeah,
but I think when I keep looking back, I think Gundam did good with their IP, because Star Wars can have something called Star Wars and have stories that have nothing to do with each other. But the
which
Star
you would think
Wars,
they would have more content that isn't just about Jedi. Like,
yeah, no, really, like
just
with
stop putting
Gundam,
Jedi in everything.
yeah, I think that was a weird push for me when Star Wars came. Well, not when it came out, but when I got into it, it was because of like the space battles. Even though there were Jedi, it was more of the space sci-fi
Right.
space stuff. But it would, like with Gundam, they have all the AUs, and it's in those ways where, and I don't know if it would be like that if you watch G Gundam for the first time after only seeing UC, but for me, there's all these different AUs, and it's like there's not one that then I will like hate on, just because I don't have to. There's other
Yeah.
things that I can get into that can be separate, so that continuity is not getting messed with, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it
And
preserves the
yeah.
authenticity of that. Honestly, that was, like, a big appeal of, the Ultimate series in, like, Marvel Comics, because it was, like, they had the Ultimate X-Men and, like, the Ultimates, which were the Ultimate Avengers.
Oh,
They had this whole line of comics that was an alternate universe, and, like, things were completely different from the mainline universe, but as they kept going, and this is where I think when fans become writers, is as they kept going, the stories started to come more and more into line with what was already in the regular universe. With the exception of like Miles Morales was like the huge left turn that it was like the Ultimates, they started off as like Orson Scott Card wrote Ultimate Iron Man. And um instead of being a captive during, in the 60s, it was during Vietnam War, but, a modern interpretation of Iron Man was during Iraq. He gets the hole blown out of his chest, has to operate on his heart, builds the magnet that keeps his particles in place, right? The shrapnel from going into his heart. In the Ultimate Iron Man universe, he is a kid that is born with like a horrific, like, uh like an autoimmune
right.
disease where like his skin is like in constant pain and stuff like that, and so he has to make this armor as a way, like his parents are actually both scientists, and they make this armor for him in order to protect him from the elements, and he's basically a bubble boy. And so it's like it's a completely different take on the Iron Man
Yeah.
character, which I appreciate. Like I like that because it's like nothing to do with it. Okay, cool. But then as they started going into, like, the Ultimate Avengers storyline, it's like, "Okay, we're gonna bring Galactus into the story," and stuff like that. They basically threw all that stuff out the window, and they were like, "No, no, he's just like regular Iron Man. He's."
Oh, interesting. So they took the Ultimates characters and kinda made them the main continuity?
Well, no, I mean, they're still separate, like, it's still a separate
Oh,
timeline,
okay.
but, like, they basically just copied the original origin stories, and, like, the characters become the same things that they were in the original
Oh.
comics. It's like
Hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things companies have to figure out how to keep churning out, content of certain IP that works, but without it getting stale or old. And it's
mhm,
interesting to see how it's done between all these different companies. And I don't know, there's not ever really a right formula. And I think things have to sometimes not work. And I think sometimes risks have to be taken. But um
for sure. And so I think that there's obviously been different attempts to do that, in the Gundam franchise. Like, Gundam Wing and Gundam X are definitely both interpretations of UC that are
yeah.
just different. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
See
would
that.
be like the Ultimates version of UC if we
Yeah.
were
And so that's what's really cool because it would be cool to have some alternate, Star Wars where there's just, another empire and then another group of rebels, but maybe it's different types of ships, maybe different type of super weapons. Like, so with Gundam, following, the Gundams throughout all the different series,
Yeah,
for Star Wars, for me, it would be an empire, a space empire versus rebels in space, whatever
there's
they're
always a
called.
rebellion, yeah.
And then what are the weapons they have? And then maybe sure the force is a little part of it, maybe, maybe not. But I like the idea of it being, yeah, Star Wars is always about the rebels fighting a space empire. Um,
Or you turn the recipe on its head the way that Gundam Wing did, where it used to be the Space Noids were the bad guys and the Earth
oh,
Federation were the good guys. Well, the Earth Alliance are the bad guys and the Space Noids are the good guys. What if the rebels were constantly attacking
oh, terror.
imperial citizens, and so the
Yeah.
Empire are the
Yeah,
heroes
that's
of the
cool. Like
story.
make them look like the empire, but not really make it seem like they're bad. Like
Yeah.
it could be where they're legitimately like a good empire that has terrorist cells.
Right, Darth Vader has to go and suppress this local governess that, this Princess Leia who is self-anointed herself, in Alderaan and is taxing her citizens to high hell, and so Darth Vader has to go and I don't know, I'm just coming up
No,
with
no, but I
silly
think in fact, I was even thinking what they could do for a Star Wars side story is make it where it's a planet that's just out of the way of both whatever back during whatever timeline. Like they've always been self-governing, but then
Yeah,
one day, like the Empire rolls up and they're like, "Hey, we're expanding across the galaxy. You're going to be folded into us." So it's like how the Empire would
it's like
seem like.
Starship Troopers.
Well, yeah, it would be like, yeah,
Well,
some outside invader, and it's like, who are to make the Empire seem like that, and then but
yeah,
this planet, they have a certain metal that allows them to build robots. That's where it would end, where they have mechanized robots fighting TIE fighters. That's kind of where I'm going with this. So,
this is the future that I envision. Well, thank you for indulging that tangent. I know that that was, not it's not our usual Gundam and gaming topic, but honestly, that was stuff that, like, I felt like, A, I had to get off my chest, and it's tangentially related to Gundam things because obviously, with Gquuuuux on the horizon,
yep,
people are out here running their mouths and don't know what they're talking about. And then people are in here running their mouths, and we don't know what we're talking about either,
I
so
know. Hey,
but thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for indulging the Patreon creator spotlight. Thank you, Ultronomus and Artie, for submitting those. They were fantastic. Definitely go check out Ultronomus' story. It is a fast read, so like you're you're not committing to reading Game of Thrones. Um, but yeah, and of course, don't forget comment on the live stream. Don't chat it. Comment down below what your favorite mobile armor is. Doesn't even have to be UC. Don't kiss up to me. If you want it to be an AU mobile armor,
yeah,
you represent AU and you say it loud and proud. Tell me why it's your favorite mobile armor. You will be entered to randomly. I'll select a random winner to get whatever it is we're going to give away for this 5,000 subscriber spectacular. And yeah, I hope you guys are excited as I am to be watching some new Gundam at home. Honestly, even if it's not the best thing ever, it's not on Crunchyroll. It's not like it's actually like on a
right,
premium like streaming service, and it's going to be available for everybody. So
yeah,
I'm excited about that much at least. And we've got Gundam Explained show coming out tomorrow, so
that's right.
definitely stay tuned for that.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, am I missing anything? Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. That was some good talk.
Yeah, yeah, no, and of course, like I said, if you guys are interested, available this month on the Patreon is a 1/1200th scale Elmeth model if you guys are into 3D printing, that kinda stuff, so check that out if you are interested, and until next time, we will catch you all later.
Deal.
Cheers, everyone.